This is the Friday Rugby Preview on Borders Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Well, hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview programme. I'm Stuart Cameron. With me is Robin Purdie, and together we'll be taking a look at the weekend's fixtures involving Borders teams and also going over the Scotland game against Australia, which is taking place at Murrayfield tomorrow. And we've got some tasty fixtures for sure to look forward to, with 3 Border derbies, 2 of which could have significant impact on the state of play in the Premiership and National 1. But let's begin with the commentary match on Borders Rugby Radio tomorrow. It's Selkirk against Hawick at Philip Hawk, and the way things stand at the moment, Robin, it doesn't come much bigger than this.
Yeah, the big games just keep coming, Stuart, don't they? A real mouth-watering prospect. Hawick look a fairly immovable object at the moment, but as we've seen earlier this season, we've seen last season, if Hawick do have a bogey team, you know, we've spoken about Glasgow Hawks before, but Selkirk have certainly given Hawick plenty to think about in the last 3-4 games.
And that's more at Mansfield Park, rather, funnily enough. For Philip Hall, Hawick always seems to kind of dominate, so it's a funny way round.
Hawick didn't put a cricket score on Selkirk there by any stretch of the imagination, and as we've seen earlier this season, it's kind of the only points that Hawick have dropped, the draw at Mansfield on the opening day, so yeah, should be a cracker.
Well, let's hear from both head coaches. Scott White from Selkirk, but first Hawick's boss, and that of course is Matty Douglas.
Yeah, look, Saturday's going to be a massive test for us. Selkirk are in a good run of form. They'll be disappointed with their defeat to Curry last weekend, so they're still at home, and that's a border derby. Everybody loves a border derby, and I think the way we're playing at the minute, we're getting better at each week. I thought last weekend we done everything right. Hawks were a big physical side, and we put them under real pressure and took our chances. Didn't get as many chances as we did the week before, so credit to the players. We took them when they were given to us, and we saw the game out well. So moving into this weekend, we know how hard this is going to be. Selkirk's a tough place to go and get a win. They'll have a big crowd down, and at the minute they're playing some good rugby. They've got a good squad, and it's going to be a tough test. But we've trained well this week, and there's been a few sore bodies for last weekend, but hopefully everybody pulls through, and if we get our set piece right and play in the right areas and hopefully put them under a little bit of pressure, we'll be able to come away with some points. And I think a border derby's they were always great to play in, and it's going to come down who wants it the most, and one we're really looking forward to try and keep our momentum going. Looking at team news in the pack, there's one change. Ross Graham drops out the squad altogether due to a head knock on Saturday, so hopefully he'll be back for the week after the break. So Matty Carrier comes in to start. In the back line, Grant Hagan replaces Logan Gordon-Woolley, so Grant moves to 12 and Andrew to 13. Also, Gareth Welsh is away with work, so Hector Patterson comes in to start. On the bench, in comes Fraser Rennick. Great to see him back involved after a time away at the Knights. Also in comes Bailey Donaldson, and Ethan Riley makes up the bench. Ethan's joined us from Perth in Australia, so we're keen to see how he goes this weekend. He's trained well this week, so we're excited to give him a chance on Saturday. But yeah, look, on the whole, it's going to be a massive game, and if we want to keep this run going and keep our momentum going, we're probably going to have to pull out a big performance, and it's definitely one that we're looking forward to.
So this week, obviously, we've got Hawick coming across to Philip Hawk, which, you know, everybody's hugely excited about the challenge, especially given that they're unbeaten. One that we're really looking forward to. We know our home performances have obviously been slightly below par this year, whereas our form on the road's been excellent. We know the challenge ahead. We know they've got some great rugby players. We've got the added benefit of following them every week. So we've watched a lot of them. So look, boys are excited. We're really looking forward to the challenge. We know it's going to be the hardest game of the season. They've got better since week 1. There's no doubt in that. Looking at the scoreboard, the scores, results, the table, Matty Douglas has done a fantastic job again down at Mansfield Park. And they've got the likes of Fraser Rennick and that returning as well this weekend as well. So no question it's going to be tough. Team-wise for us this week, we've got Monroe Job will come back in at number 8, having missed last weekend with being ill. He was a late replacement. So Monroe returning to back row. Obviously with Ryan Godsmark, that's him now away back to Belgium, and then an injury picked up by Andrew Grant City. We'll see Ross Nixon returning to the back line. We've also got the added benefit of Craig Jackson being available this week. So he's obviously been out long term, so he'll return to play this weekend. So he'll get some game time. But his experience has been invaluable around the club the last few weeks. So really looking forward to seeing Craig on the pitch from a Selkirk perspective. And it's a challenge that we're relishing, and boys can't wait to 3 o'clock on Saturday at Selkirk.
Scott White, and before that it was Matty Douglas. Both coaches looking forward to the game. As we mentioned earlier, 20-all draw on the first day of the season. Since then, Hawick have yet to be beaten. Selkirk have proved that they're genuine contenders as well for the playoffs, currently in 4th.
Yeah, they are in 4th. It's a big game for Selkirk in that regard, because they sit, I think, 7 points behind Curry, who are in 3rd at the moment, and they in Glasgow sit just above Glasgow Hawks, sit just above Jed and Mar. Now, Mar, I looked at it last week, have got what might be deemed to be a reasonably straightforward, on paper at least, next 5 games. So Selkirk could do with something out of this game, albeit against the league leaders. They could do with something just to maintain that push for that 4th place, because it does look at this stage that Hawick, Accies and Curry will likely form 3 of those 4 positions.
You'll be joined by Dale Clancy in the commentary box, and obviously that's these are the games you like to talk about.
Oh yeah, it's great. It'll be good to see Dale again. I've not seen Dale so far this season. So it'll be good to work with him again. But yeah, as Matty said in his piece there, it's a border derby. It's one to look forward to. And as far as Hawick are concerned, again looking at the fixtures after this, they have Jed at home, Musselburgh home and away, Accies at home, and Heriots away. Those are 5 winnable fixtures for Hawick. So a win here or a win at Philip Hall on Saturday would set them up nicely for those next 5 games, and if they pick up points in those next 5 games, then Hawick are absolutely looking at a home semi-final, for my money at least.
And the Bill McLaren Shield, of course, on its travels again.
Yes, of course, it's heading a few miles across to Philip Hall, and yeah, it's just an added thing for these teams to play for. I think, again, looking at Hawick and what Matty said there, and the names that are coming in, Fraser Rennick's coming onto the bench, Welsh drops out, and Hector Patterson, who had a fine start to the season, he can come back into the squad, and obviously they've got a new import in there as well. It's a strong Hawick squad this season, and almost seems a bit of a funny thing to say, but is Matty got the same kind of job as a Pep Guardiola? How his biggest issue could be, how does he keep all these boys happy? Because they've got 20 odd boys that could play week in, week out easily.
Well, Selkirk versus Hawick is the big game in the Premiership, no doubt about that. But also in the Premiership, Jedforest are at home to Curry, and let's hear from Jed's main man, that is Andrew Brown.
Last week everyone was delighted with the result. We knew that it would be a challenge, and we knew that if we were close going into the final quarter, we had a chance. We didn't plan on it being quite that close and down to the last kick of the game. But credit to the lads. For 60 minutes, they were under pressure, but defended with passion, defended for the shirt and defended for each other. It was good to watch, and it's a credit to them. This week, obviously we know what a good outfit this Curry team is right across the park, whether it's forward play or back split. They're a well drilled, well organised, dynamic, fit, fast team. So again, another challenge, but one that we're ready for. I feel like we're heading in the right direction, and we're getting stronger each week. We can definitely take our physicality to them. Last week our physicality won the game, and it has helped us right through the season so far. This week, unfortunately, Harry Meadows is out. He got injured last week. He's having a hard time. Hopefully, moving forward, we'll get some game time out of him, because he's definitely a massive asset. I don't actually have a team for you just yet, because we do have a few late fitness tests to do. Gary Young had a bit of a hamstring tweak last week, so waiting on a fitness test on him. Callum Young as well had a bit of an injury coming out of the GHA game, so we just sort of a late fitness test on him. And then another one, Dan Wardrop, who's coming back from a hand injury. So all 3 are obviously massive contributes. Gary being top of the tackle stats last week, so obviously we will hopefully get him on the park. The front row trio of Grant Paxton, Finlay Scott and Paulo Ferreira will be starting. All three are a massive asset and playing out the skin at the moment. Grant especially is having on great form, as well as Finlay with his boot. And then Paolo just loves scoring tries. Obviously Clark Skeldon, he'll be skippering the team from the second row, and he'll be partnered by John Story, who again had another good game last week. Back row yet to be decided just yet, following fitness tests. Aidan Bambrick will be starting at 9 along with Jai McGough at 10. Again, both massive contributions. Aidan coming into some real form and finding his and hitting his straps. And Jai McGough again defended outstandingly and got that back line moving. Ricardo Ferreira will probably be starting at 12 alongside Rory Marshall, with Mason Cullen and Shearer Gibb on the wings. Gregor Young and Lewis Young both available. Again, another fitness test on Lewis, a bit of a hamstring issue, but we'll wait and see later tonight.
Okay, so that's the words of Andrew Brown, the head coach of Jedforest. Now, you're a Jed player from another era, admittedly.
A bygone era, yeah.
A bygone era. Halfway point in the Premiership, you'll be pretty impressed, no doubt, the fact that Jed are where they are, but also the fact that Andrew's come in and done a job.
Yeah, I think him and Mark Lee have come in and done a great job, in all honesty. At the start of the season, there was rumours of not that many boys training and all the rest of it, snippets that you'd hear. Now, I think Jed have done great. You know, they've won, 3 out of 8, but they've put a lot of points on a good few teams. Let's be honest, that was a massive win again. And, you know, what a pleasure it was to be at the late drama. What a massive win that was against Mar, and a bonus point no less. You know, you look at the table now, another result, massive result for Jed last weekend was at Story Hill, where Musselburgh had a big lead in the, you know, GHA came back to peg them back. That was a massive win for Jed. Again, looking forward at the fixtures, if Jed can get something from Currie, then Jed do look to have a fairly difficult, you know, Currie's a difficult fixture in itself, but the 5 fixtures thereafter do look reasonably tricky. But Jed have got points in the bag, and I think that in 5 games time maybe, I think it's December the 10th, Musselburgh away for Jed. Mark that in your calendar, Jed fans, because if you win that game, you're safe. You might be safe by then anyway, but win that game and you're home and host.
Because it is important. I mean, looking back at last season, of course, Aberdeen went down with 19 points. Now, obviously, you'll probably need a few more than that to actually survive, but at least, and of course with Heriots, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, Heriots getting that win at Edinburgh Accies, which was phenomenal last week, but it shows that, you know, they're going to get boys back from the Super 6 now, and Heriots are going to be a different animal. Yeah,
that was, in as much as Musselburgh result was massive for Jed, that, you know, that Heriot result didn't go Jed's way. That looked an absolute home. It looked the home banker of the day, to be honest. That Rayburn place there for Accies, and Heriots must have done a great job there, and no mistake. But yeah, I just think Jed have got enough. They've put enough points on enough teams, and Musselburgh appear to be struggling. They should have won that game with the start that they had, and obviously they didn't. I can't see that doing wonders for their morale, in all honesty. But, you know, there's one team going down from this division, and Jed have done great, really great in my opinion, to find themselves in the position that they're in, just about within touching distance of being safe, and we've not quite played half the games yet.
And we've seen them, of course, be away from home, scoring a lot of tries, bonus point tries at GHA, for instance, and coming out the wrong end of the scoreline. But they do have this great home record at Riverside Park. 3 wins on the bounce now, going into a 4th. Currie, going to be a very tricky game, as you say, but if they get a good start, because Currie have been really bad starters, and Jed have been good finishers, so we might find that we get a situation where there's not many points in the first half, and then all hell breaks loose in the second.
Yeah, and you know, Jed can score tries, whether it's the young twins and young Mason Cullen in the backs doing their thing, or whether it's Paulo Ferreira rumbling over for 10, 11 tries a season from 2 yards a time. Jed can score tries, and when you can score tries, when you've got that in your locker, there's always the chance of a 4-try bonus. And equally, if you're not going to win a game, there's always the chance, if you can score tries, of a losing bonus. It seems straightforward to say, but that is the case, you know. So there's a point there, there's 2 points here, even in losing games. Those all tot up, absolutely, they tot up in a division whereby only one team's going to go down.
And of course, I've heard through the grapevine, it's not been confirmed, but Kieran Clark will be joining Jedforest from the Super 6 draft. And again, that's going to make a bit of an impact. I mean, what a backline to have Kieran Clark in that backline as well. Sounds pretty mouth-watering, if indeed it is true.
Yeah, that's news to me, but I think the way drafts work, there are the ones that will come and they'll do a job and they'll put their all into it, and there's players that get affiliated to clubs and they won't be seen. So I think if Jed can get anybody from Super 6 that comes and does a shift, then that can only be a good thing. And Kieran Clark's a good player.
Well, that game kicks off at 3 o'clock. Andrew Fleming will be covering that one for us. And the other games, of course, that we've kind of mentioned, GHA against Emberakis, that's a 1 o'clock kick-off. The rest are at 3. Heriots Blues versus Hawks. I mean, we could see Hawks starting to slide down the table in recent weeks and Heriots improving. So that at Golden Acre, you would say, could well be another Heriots win. And then Musselburgh against Mar, which, again, you have to say, Mar should be favourites to win that.
Yeah, I can see Mar winning there, to be honest. I can see them picking up a bonus point without without Musselburgh getting too much. I was pretty impressed by Mar, to be honest, last week at Jed. They pretty much had that game in the bag. They'll be disappointed to go away from Jed with just the 2 bonus points. They are missing a fair few frontliners, but on their day they can still compete with anybody. You know, they put Curry to the sword, no less. So yeah, I would imagine Mar will be too strong for Musselburgh there, which again should help Jed. The other game, Heriots v Glasgow Hawks, you're absolutely right. Heriots, I can see now starting to climb the table. If they do a job on Glasgow Hawks on Saturday, that will certainly help Selkirk's cause. And
GHA against Emberakis, very intriguing.
Yeah, it is. Prior to last weekend, I would have said that might be a sort of 10-15 point win for the Ackies, but going through there, based on Ackies losing at home at Heriots last week, that's anybody's game, and Ackies are going to need to keep winning games and picking up points to just maintain that top 4 position, because like I say, I can see Mar coming, I can't see Mar getting a home semi-final, but I can still see Mar finishing top 4.
Well, let's have a quick look at the table then before we move on to National 1. Hawick at the top, 34, Emberakis 32, Curry 32, so Emberakis only there on points difference, Selkirk 25, Hawks 22, Jed 18, Mar 17, GHA 17, Heriots Blues 12 and Musselburgh 5. So that's the state of play at the moment. Let's go into National 1 and another big derby. And let's set it up for you. Melrose v Kelso. Melrose unbeaten at home all season. Kelso top of the table, unbeaten in all games so far. We're going to hear first from Melrose head coach Bert Grigg, then the thoughts of Kelso director of rugby Neil Hinnigan.
Looking forward to hosting Kelso at the Green Yards this Saturday. Obviously they've started off the season pretty well, to say the least. They're really effective with what they do. Murray Hasty puts them into some good places, and they're pretty clinical once they get within 10 metres of the try line. But for us, I think we've hit a bit of a vein of form at the minute. Proved last week up at Biggar that we can combat that sort of physical style. The 2 teams play a very similar way, and it's an opportunity for us to sort of back it up and prove that we can win games like that, especially at home as well. Keep that undefeated record at home going this season. So yeah, squad's boosted this week. A few returning players. Callum Cruikshanks is available again this week, and Jack Dolby's back from his travelling in New Zealand, so brings a real bit of experience back into that front row, as well as Canadian Mitch Richardson returning from injury. He'll make his first appearance since his injury with the Southern Knights. So yeah, look, exciting game on Saturday. I think we're just really focusing on ourselves this week, making sure that we're nailing what we're good at, and making sure we're coming out all firing, taking on Kelso this Saturday.
Up to the Green Yards on Saturday for a big game again against an informed Melrose team. I think they're 4 on the bounce at the moment, and they're also unbeaten at home. They've racked up some pretty good scores at home. I think they really enjoy the 3G surface at home. They just keep scoring loads of tries, and that's something that we're going to have to be on our game with. We're going to have to defend well up there if we want to get anything out of the match. And I know Melrose particularly take the border derbies pretty serious, as everybody does, but they usually field a pretty strong team against Kelso, and I suppose that's a good thing for us, a bit of a mark of respect for ourselves these days. At the last season, certainly we came up against pretty strong Melrose teams, and we're expecting the same this week. The 3G surface is a bit of an issue for us. We've got a couple of forced changes due to injuries that people have sustained on them before, or they're not comfortable on the surface. So What that does is it opens up the door for a couple of guys that are knocking on the door and to get in the team, so they're going to get a run and a chance, an opportunity. So young Murray Woodcock comes in the second row. He's only 18, and Murray's been doing well. He scored a hat-trick last week for the second team, so that process is working well. So he comes in for Keith McNeil. Kevin Dryden returns to the team for Ferg Cumming on the bench. Again, Kev played well for the seconds last week. Greg Punton comes back in for Mark Wilson. Mark just needs a bit of game time. He's not had much game time the last couple of weeks. He's been on the bench himself, so we give Mark a bit of chance to get a run out as well for the seconds. So the process is working pretty well that way for us, and we just got to trust in the guys that are there and the effort they're putting in. So yeah, we go again. This Melrose team's pretty handy. I mean, they're littered with players that have played Super 6 level. I know with Super 6 finishing, some of the players have returned. Guys like David Colvin, Duke Crawford, and various others. And I mean, there's numerous of them played a good level. Stu Hutchison, Bruce Colvin, Tam Brown, Will. And these guys have all played Super 6 to some degree or for long periods of time, and that's got to hold Melrose in good stead. And that's something we've maybe really not got a lot of, but we have got experienced players. So yeah, it's gonna match up pretty well, I think, and we're fully aware of how good this Melrose team is, and I think Melrose just go out the game slight favourites given their home form and the type of personnel they can call upon for these fixtures. So we'll see how it goes. Let the best team win.
Very interesting comments from Neil there. Playing some mind games, do you think? 3G pitch and Melrose favourites?
Possibly. It wasn't too long since Neil was telling us about obtaining enough points to be safe. I think that ship has sailed, clearly.
Yep.
So yeah, he clearly doesn't like a favourites tag, Neil, and quite right. In his role as director of rugby, he has to do and has to say what he feels best for Kelso and gives Kelso the best opportunity to win rugby matches. And if that puts favourites tags in the head of the opposition, then so be it. I think he's possibly onto something. I think this is difficult to call. It's not a foregone conclusion simply because Kelso are top of the table, put it that way.
And what about the 3G pitch though? Players dropping out because they don't like playing on it?
Yeah.
Unless I heard that wrong, that's what he said, isn't it?
I mean, one way or another, if one of those players is Keith McNeil, then that's a blow because he's a big lump, and in my opinion, he forms a really good second row partnership with the other Keith Melbourne. So yeah, that interesting comments from Neil, and that's what you get from Neil, and yeah, it really is a mouth-watering game.
It is, because it's probably the strongest Melrose side to date this season, and so much riding on this as well, particularly for Melrose, because a win for them shows they really are serious contenders for the title. I mean, already they're up to the same points as Gala, because Gala have had a couple of losses. Yeah,
you took the words right out of my mouth there, Stuart. It's a cup final for Melrose, and I keep harking back. I'm like a broken record every week about the fact that this division is so exciting, in my opinion, because there's only one team goes up. Now, Melrose are 7 points behind Kelso. Kelso not lost the game this season, 7 from 7. If Melrose win this, they're in a title race. Absolutely. If Melrose lose, that'll be 3 losses now. I can't see them going up with 3 losses and still a chunk of the season to play. I think it'll play massively into Kelso's chances of going up. If Kelso, I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, obviously, but as well as Kelso enhancing their own chances if they win, that will see another rival of theirs, i.e. Melrose, dropping out of promotion contention, and that's just the way it is with one team going up. And there'll be people at the Green Yards who will thank me for saying that, but it's a cup final for Melrose, absolutely.
Okay, well, we'll have a camera at that one as well, with you and Welsh covering the game for us, and that is too hard to call in my book as well, and I can't wait to find out what happens. Gala, though, they're going to be visiting the capital to take on Stuart's Melville, who are 11th in the table, and surely we're going to see Gala back to winning ways after 2 narrow defeats. Here's what head coach Stuart Johnson had to say.
Up to Stu Mel on Saturday for what's a must-win game for us after 2 defeats. We go up there with a very settled squad actually from Saturday. The only person dropping out through injury is Ben Gill, with Craig Dodds coming in the starting team in the centre, and Gregor Collins moves onto the bench. Obviously Gregor's been in the squad once before up at Bigger, and he's been impressing with our second squad, so Gregor gets another opportunity. Settled squad, but a must-win game for us if we want to keep ourselves in contention with Kelso Melrose and Ayr at the top in that one.
2 games they've lost, but 2 games they should have won. Let's be honest, but because they lost, they dropped 8 points and they're now in 3rd place. And all of a sudden, Ayr come out and snatch 2nd place.
Yeah, and Stuart there used the phrase must win. It is must win, and for the exact same reasons it's must win for Melrose. If they're going to stay on Kelso's coattails in this particular division, then it's absolutely a must win. And I think they will win, and I think they'll get a bonus point. Stirling, I think, at home after that for Gala. I'd fancy again 5 points from that, but then it's Ayr away and then it's Melrose away. So do Gala need 10 points from the next 2 games as much as they don't want to heap pressure on them in this league? As I keep referring to, yes, they potentially do, and they possibly now need to go unbeaten, Gala.
And they need that confidence back. I think any team that loses to, no matter how narrow the loss was, they need to get back on the wagon and say, look, we can score tries, and no better chance than at Stuart's Melville, based on what Stuart's Melville have done so far, which hasn't been a great deal. So for their own confidence boost, get the 5 points.
Absolutely, and it's one of the oldest cliches in the book. You don't become a bad team overnight, and Gala are certainly not a bad team. And yeah, Gala absolutely have got the personnel, and they've got the management people as well to turn round what is at the moment a mini blip. But there's no reason that Gala can't take 10 points from the next 2 games and can't win at Ayr and can't win at Melrose, and then they're right back where they need to be.
And as I say, they could so easily be top of the table going into this game.
That's it. That's the fine margins of this league. One up, brilliant.
Just like last year, it's the gift that keeps giving.
It is. It literally is. It's the cup finals every week gift that keeps giving.
Other games in National 1, Aberdeen Grammar versus Dundee, so the derby, as near as a derby you can get up there. And Aberdeen Grammar, of course, finally got their first win of the season against Watsonians. Ayr against GHK, which should be a home win. Stirling County versus Highland, and Watsonians against Biggar. What about them?
There's 2 divisions formed, if you like, within this division. There's the top 5 from Highland up have kind of broken away from the pack, if you like, and that pack doesn't include Biggar, which they'll be disappointed about, I would have thought. Biggar, I'd fancy them to win this weekend. It was good to see Aberdeen win. That'll be quite an interesting game now that Aberdeen have chalked up a victory. But there's the teams at the top here that are contributing to the exciting nature of this league, and there's kind of the others. Now, that's not to say that the other teams won't have a say in proceedings, because somebody somewhere will, in the upper echelons, will potentially drop points to a Dundee or a Biggar can still definitely have a big say in who's actually going to win this league.
Let's have a look at that table then. So Kelso at the top, 33, Ayr 28, Gala 26, Melrose 26, Highland 23, and then, as you say, big gap. And how tight is it in the bottom half? Listen to this: Dundee 14, Biggar 14, Stirling 13, GHK 12, Watsonians 11. That is exciting. And then you've got Stewmel with 6 and Aberdeen at 6 at the bottom. And remember, of course, 3 will go down.
Yes, it's going to be a dogfight at the other end of the table. We've maybe paid more attention to the upper echelons because that's where the border teams in that division find themselves. But yeah, it's exciting at the bottom as well, absolutely. There's some big names, some historic clubs in Scottish rugby that could find themselves in the 3rd tier next season.
Well, International 2, Peebles, they're playing tonight at 8 o'clock under the lights at Kirkcaldy, who Berwick beat last week. Now, here's head coach for Peebles, Ian Chisholm.
We're obviously disappointed not to get our game against Boroughmuir played last weekend. We understand that they have issues with Edinburgh Leisure and the use of their pitches. And that's just how it is, and hopefully we can get that fixture rescheduled pretty soon. We go into this weekend against Kirkcaldy relatively unchanged. Neil Hogarth, club captain, starts at 1, and Andrew Muir's unavailable this weekend, so John Napier's promoted into the starting side. John Gray, who I did mention last week, his work rate and his ability to get around the pitch and an increase in involvements has meant that he starts. Cammy Pye comes back in after a niggly elbow with Ross Brown in the second row. Murdo Anderson, Finlay Collins and Finlay Sinclair make up the back row. Murdo's been playing a lot at centre for us, and he's dealt really well with that transition, and he's just a really solid club guy, and I've asked him to do a few different things, and he's been working primarily with the backs at training, so he'll be our cover in the centres if need be. Dave Collins and Donald Anderson make up the half-backs, with James Dow, Scotty Sturrock and Frey McKeever making up the back 3. The Harrison brothers, Rob and Jack, they start in the centres. On the bench, Willie Aitken, who again, he's either getting fitter or he's trying harder. And Andrew Brown is back in contention for selection after him and his wife had a little baby boy, Finn. Ewan Jackson comes onto the bench, and myself, I make up number 19, covering all the backs. It's going to be a wee bit different for us this week with a Friday night game, but I think that'll probably help us. We're Saturdays, you can often get caught cold, and I know I'm probably guilty of it as well, of doing not very much and not eating very well throughout the day and just waiting on the game to happen. But if we're looking at a Friday night game, then the boys are just going to be going about what they usually do and hitting the ground running. We understand what Kirkcaldy are going to bring. They're going to be physical. They're probably going to feed off our mistakes a lot. And if our penalty count's as high as it has been in the past, in all of our games recently, then we're going to struggle to get any sort of territory in possession. We've set training up because we believe that there are certain opportunities in the way that they defend that can give us good ball and good work up the pitch. So really excited for this weekend.
So rugby and baby news from Ian Chisholm there, but disappointed no update on the marriage proposal. Remember last week he was saying that one of the players went to Budapest for a proposal. Well, come on, we need to know. It's like a soap opera.
Yeah, it's all happening at Peebles at the moment, isn't it? On and off the field, evidently. But yeah, I think they were, reading between the lines, they were most disappointed last weekend, to put it mildly.
And Boroughmuir.
Yeah, Boroughmuir as well, in fairness.
Out of their control.
Yeah, out of their control, absolutely. The game was postponed, and will it have dented Peebles' momentum? I don't think so, but this is a big game. It's a tricky game because, let's not forget, Kirkcaldy were 4 from 4 after the first 4 games, so they've lost a couple, notably down at Berwick there. So I think, again, they've got the people there, they've got the players there that can pick up a result, and it'll be a good result. It's really interesting. I always like listening to Ian talk about rugby. He's a knowledgeable guy, and he says what he thinks, and interesting points that he made about playing on a Friday night and how it potentially can help a team because you don't have several, you're at work potentially during the day and you don't have several hours sitting about waiting for a game at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. So that's an interesting spin on it.
Yeah, totally different dynamic, and under the lights as well, 8 o'clock kick-off as well, rather than a 7:30, presumably to give them time to actually get up there.
If I was a player, I'd happily play on Friday night every week, under the lights, bigger crowd. It certainly used to be the case Friday night. Yeah, I'm all, the odd Friday night game here and there, I'm all for it.
By the way, talking of Friday nights, I think it's November the 17th, because the match in the Border League and the Premiership has been switched to a Friday night, and that is Selkirk against Jedforest in the Premiership. We'll be coming live from Philip Hoch on that night, and looking forward to it, and obviously bring the programme from there at the same time. So something to look forward to there. But Peebles, yes, they'll be going under the lights at 8 o'clock, and of course they'll be niggled that they're not top of the table, because obviously they were overtaken by a couple of teams and are now back in third place, albeit with a game in hand. Well, Berwick are away as well at Hamilton, bottom club, and if they're going to pick up away wins, this is the kind of match they need to win. Here's head coach Colin Young.
This weekend, Berwick travelled to Hamilton. After back-to-back wins, we were able to name an unchanged team for the first time this season. Although Hamilton are bottom of the league, they had a narrow defeat last weekend, so we won't be taking anything for granted. Discipline will have to be key on the road. Last weekend, man of the match James Thompson getting 2 tries was exceptionally good, but I thought also in the front row, Darren Goodfellow and Ryan Wilson ran James very close.
Colin Young, who is the head coach of Berwick. An away win there, do you think?
Yeah, I'm taking an away win on my card there, Stuart, and that will take Berwick, if it comes to fruition, that'll take Berwick to 24 points, and Berwick and Kirkcaldy are 4 from 6, so they've played a game less than some of the teams, and like the division above, there's a wee bit of a split happening between maybe the top 7 and the bottom 5, and Berwick will be keen to maintain their position in that top 7 and push on from there, but I think Berwick have done brilliantly. 4 wins from 6 games, having been promoted last season. I think that's a great start, and I think they rightly should be delighted.
Hamilton, very different sort of animal now. Look at last week's result at Preston Lodge, who, of course, let's not forget, beat Peebles convincingly. They only lost by 3 points.
Yeah, there has been some strange results in the division. It looked early in the piece that Kirkcaldy and Preston Lodge could be the teams to beat, but definitely evidence there to suggest that probably the top 7 teams can beat each other. And as you say, Hamilton even rooted at the bottom came pretty close last weekend, so they are obviously improving. And again, like the division above, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that division. It's anybody's.
Duns are away to Ross High in the National Shield competition, while in the East Bowl it's a local derby for Hawick Quins and Gala YM. Now, Quins are going to start favourites for this one as they're unbeaten after a brilliant win at Edinburgh Northern last week, taking Edinburgh Northern's unbeaten record 5 from 5 and well and truly putting it in the bin with a big result by about 40 points cleared, I think they were. But Gala YM have also performed well on their day, and they're not going to be a pushover. Unfortunately, we can't hear from Hawick Quins, but we can hear from Gala YM coach Stuart Walker.
We've had a real focus on the bowl competition throughout the season, and we're really looking forward to Saturday against Hawick Quins. We've been keeping an eye on their results, and we know that they've been really strong on certain weeks and had some good results, so we know it's going to be a tough task. We had a bit of a disappointing performance in our last league game away to Liberton. But training's been great since then. We've bounced back, and we've got a few boys coming back from injury who'll make a real impact. Notably, Alex Selkirk's coming back into the squad. Shane Kellett as well is going to be fit to play this weekend, so that's a real bonus. But had big numbers down at training and a full squad for Saturday. Like I say, we've been looking forward to these games, and we really want to give our best shot on Saturday against the Quins. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Should be a good game, that one. Looking forward to that as well. Hawick Harlequins are playing Gala YM for a place in the final of the East Bowl. Well, finally on the local front, Kelso ladies visit Liberton ladies on Sunday, still unbeaten this season. And here's Kelso captain Donna Borthwick.
This week, Kelso ladies take on Liberton away. Last week we were meant to play them at home, but they couldn't fulfil a team, so we're looking forward to going up there this week and having a really good game with them. We did play alongside them in the cup games. We duelled with them because they didn't have enough numbers, and neither did we. So we kind of know what they've got to offer, but they've had a lot of new players recently as well, the same as us. So we're really looking forward to seeing what they have to offer. It'll be quite a tough, fast match, we think. But we've got a lot of good backs in playing for us this weekend. We've got Louise Halliday at 10. Who is really good off the boot and has really good hands. We've got a really good partnership of Katie McLaren and Jess. Katie's playing amazing at outside centre. She used to play 10 for us, but now she plays 13 and she's having a really good season so far. Her boot's been brilliant, and her running some great lines as well. Our forward pack's looking really good as well. We've got our usual forwards playing that we have every week, but they're ready to go after a week of rest, and we're hoping that we're going to come away with another win this weekend.
Lots of new girls at the club, and this can only be good for the team as well. Also very encouraging for other clubs in the area. Hopefully we'll see them in the league soon.
Yeah, it's definitely, women's rugby. It's on the up, absolutely, and you're right. Kelso can be the benchmark for that in this region, and others will hopefully follow suit, and the numbers will be there, hopefully.
Because everyone wants a derby, don't they, of some sort?
That's it. Whether it's Selkirk v
Gala Vixens or Melrose Ladies or whatever.
Our derbies are what we want to see in and around the borders.
Finally today, a look at Scotland against Australia, which kicks off at 5:30 tomorrow. Only home-based players allowed because it's outside the designated World Rugby window, so not what you would call the main starting 15, but still good enough, I would imagine, to be competitive against Australia. Let's have a quick look, in fact, at who has been selected. If you don't know by now, it's Ollie Smith from Glasgow Warriors at fullback, Darcy Graham and Duan van der Merth on the wings, Mark Bennett and Sion Tuipulotu in the centre, Blair Kinghorn wearing the number 10 jersey, Ali Price vice-captain at 9. In the pack we've got Pierre Schoeman, Dave Cherry and Xander Fagerson. In the second row, Sam Skinner and Grant Gilchrist. James Ritchie's captaining out of number 6, Hamish Watson at 7 and Matt Fagerson 8. And on the bench we've got George Turner, Jamie Batty, WP Nell, Glenn Young, of course, former Jedforest, rooting for him, Jack Dempsey, George Horn, Ross Thompson and Damien Hoyland. So that's the team. What's your take on it?
Yeah, well, we need to be mindful, first of all, as you said, that it's the home-based players. There's no Stuart Hogg, for example, due to his club commitments and this international falling outside the so-called window. Delighted to see Glenn Young in there. He
could get his first ever home cap.
Yeah, which will be brilliant to see. I know his family will be absolutely buzzing by that. They'll all be there, no doubt, and cheering him on. I think he's done brilliantly since he came to Edinburgh, and I've thought he, by this point in his career, should have had more caps than he's had. So it's great to see him there. There's obviously one main talking point with Scotland at the moment. And,
what would that be, Robin?
Well, it's before we mention Finn Russell's name, we need to remember that he wouldn't have been playing this weekend anyway, because it falls out with the window. But what's going on there, I do not know, and I'm not sure many other people know. But if he's not in our best 3 number 10s, then I don't know what's going on.
Gregor Townsend has said it's a form thing, but we saw him last week. He looked pretty good to me, I have to say.
Yeah, and he did. He played very well last week from what I saw, and I think personally he looks to be in the shape of his career at the moment. Now, Finn's his own man. He is a bit of a maverick, for want of a better word, and we've seen in all sports down the years, sometimes they maybe need to be managed a wee bit differently, but I think he looks in great nick at the moment. I think he looks physically brilliant. Certainly played very well against Montpellier last weekend, who are obviously no mugs. French champions, I think they are. So, yeah, it's just, what are we now, a year out from the World Cup? If there is an issue there, I, as a Scotland fan, as somebody that wants to see Scotland do really well, if there's an issue there, I'd just like to see it get resolved. It's sad. He's a world-class operator, and, yeah, sometimes he tries a kick pass and it doesn't come off, and it maybe looks like he's playing with a smile on his face at times that he shouldn't have, and that riles certain elements of the supporters, I think, at times. I don't subscribe to that at all. I love the way he plays. I love the way he goes about his business. I just really hope it can get resolved for the good of the nation, that is a year out from a World Cup.
I'd love to see him take on New Zealand, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You want, in any sport, you want your top operators, you want your best players playing as many games as they possibly can. And, you can probably hear the exasperation in my voice. I just don't get it, Stuart. I really don't get it. And I hope it can be resolved, because, yes, from an entertainment perspective, I want to see Finn Russell play rugby, whether it's for Racing or Scotland or whoever. I want to see players like that playing the game. But as a Scotland fan, as I say, I'm just exasperated by the whole thing. I just want to see our best players playing in their best positions to be giving us the best chance of success.
And of course, as Mark Palmer, I think it was, from the Times, said he could yet face New Zealand in a Barbarians jersey.
Well, it's the kind of thing the Barbarians would revel in, really, isn't it?
He is a Barbarians player, isn't he?
Yeah, and also I think the Barbarians would take every opportunity to revel in the media that would surround that if it was to occur. But he's Barbarians. He's a Barbarians player to the absolute core. And yeah, he may well feature against New Zealand, and you wouldn't put it past him if he does to have an absolutely world-class performance, and then there'll be even more questions than there are answers.
Well, it's going to be interesting over the next few weeks anyway, but locally, of course, Darcy Graham representing the Borders, Glenn Young on the bench, which is great, and a couple of former Melrose players we should mention as well. Jamie Batty and Damien Hoyland all have played at the Green Yards as well. What do you think the result's going to be there? Because it's an Australian team that are kind of going through a bit of transition as well.
Yeah, and they're below us in the world rankings at the moment as well. It's a tough one to call. I think the Australians might nick it. Just if it was in a week's time and we had the Hogs of this world available, then I think we would potentially pip them. Johnny Gray, another one that would come in there. But yeah, throw Finn Russell in the mix as well, then yeah, I'd be taking us tomorrow on there's a squeak of a chance we might beat New Zealand for the first time ever.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've probably got our best chance ever. We've seen Argentina, who have beaten New Zealand twice now. But then, of course, we have to caveat that with the fact that New Zealand then hammered them a few weeks later.
Yeah, let's not get a false sense of security about New Zealand. If it will be possibly our greatest ever victory if we beat them now, or even when when they're perceived to be maybe slightly less good than they were previously. If we beat them now, it's potentially our biggest ever victory. But yeah, we need all our players firing on that day. We need all our players firing, but we need our best players playing at the top of their ability. Let's remember there's a banana skin in this run of fixtures, and it's Fiji. it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we could put Australia away and then come unstuck.
That's very Scotland, isn't it?
I think you have to be, we've seen it enough. If we can come out of this with 2 good victories, possibly even 3, then I think that'll be viewed as a good campaign, and it might put some of the talk about Russell to bed. If we only beat Fiji and we take a couple of heavy reversals, then the Russell issue's not going to go away.
Well, the New Zealand game is, I think, the only one that's sold out, as I understand it. And I think it's because people want to say, I was there when that happened. And as I say, this is probably as good a chance as we're going to get of getting that final monkey off the back. Because we've had a few monkeys off the back recently. And of course, getting the win at Twickenham, getting the win in Paris. And this is in recent times. So, we have a squad here who can actually do the business in these tests.
Yeah, and look at our 2 wingers. I mean, Darcy Graham must be in the top 2 or 3 wingers on form in the world at the moment. You can probably put another of his Edinburgh club mates in there as well. Buffelli, Edinburgh are really blessed with wings, aren't they? Given that they've got Van der Merwe back as now, they really have an embarrassment of riches there. But yeah, when you look at the wings, Scotland have got Graham on one side, Van der Merwe on the other. Those 2 players alone are going to cause problems for most teams. And yeah, I'm trying to find positives and not be too downbeat about Russell, as you can probably tell. But no, those are 2 great wingers, and yeah, it's if they can see enough ball, I guess.
Well, that's just about it for today. I've got to say my thanks to Robin Purdie for being here. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow at 2 o'clock for our Borders Rugby special programme from Philip Hoch on Borders Rugby Radio, with live commentary of Selkirk versus Hawick with Dale Clancy and Robin Purdie, and score updates throughout the afternoon across Scotland. Unfortunately, I can't be in 2 places at once, so I'll be at Murrayfield. Hugh Brown will present the programme tomorrow. There won't be a Saturday show on the 5th of November, as there's very little rugby on locally, but there will be a Friday preview next week. We'll see you again for that, but for now, from Robin and me, bye for now.